Okay, it's after 7:30. Let's bring the meeting to order. This is the annual meeting of the Village of Johnson. I understand none of the trustees and obviously the village manager have gone through a village meeting because the last couple of years we've had Australian ballots. So welcome you guys, and it is actually good to be back in-person meeting. I personally believe I like it better this way than Australian ballot. It gives you an opportunity to ask your elected officials questions directly, and their opportunity to explain different things that they want to accomplish with you, as well as you can amend things that you can't do from Australian ballot, obviously. So the way it works is I'm the president. I basically act as the moderator, just like a town meeting. I'll first read the warning, then we'll go back and address each article. So if anybody's got any questions, now would be the time to ask before we start. And I will ask everybody sitting in the first two rows of the chairs, you are voters correctly, and you have registered in, right? Perfect. And Martha, you're registered. You're fine. Everybody in the back row is non-resident of the village. And it is a public meeting. You guys are more than welcome to be here. Have a question?
Yeah, sometimes at the end it has old business, new business, and it's like, just wondering. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, let's commence with reading the warning. The warning for the annual village meeting, April 4th, 2023. The inhabitants of Johnson Village Corporation or legal voters in the village are hereby warned to meet at the Johnson Municipal Building in Johnson Village, Tuesday, April 4th, 2023 at 7:30 o'clock in the evening, local time, to transact the following business to wit. The voters are further warned to meet at Johnson Municipal Building in said town on Tuesday, April 4th, 2023, to vote the following by Australian ballot. Article 1, village officers. The polls will open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Article 1, to elect village officers as required by Australian ballot. President for a term of 1 year, village clerk for a term of 1 year, trustee for a term of 3 years, trustee for a term of 2 years, trustee for a term of 1 year, balance of a 3-year term, treasurer for a term of 1 year, collector of taxes for a term of 1 year, auditor for a term of 3 years, auditor for a term of 1 year, balance of a 3-year term. Article 2, will the village vote to adopt the annual report of the auditors for the year ending December 31st, 2022 as printed. Article 3, will the village authorize its trustees to appoint a water and light commissioner, if not, to elect a water and light commissioner for 1 year. Article 4, will the village authorize the trustees to set the rates of compensation of its officers and employees. Article 5, will the village vote a budget to meet the expenses and liabilities of the village. Article 6, shall the voters authorize the village of Johnson to appoint the village clerk in accordance with 17 VSA 2651E. Article 7, shall the voters authorize the village of Johnson to appoint the village treasurer in accordance with 17 VSA 2651F. Article 8, doing such other business as may properly be brought before this meeting, dated at Johnson this first day of March 2023, signed by the trustees, Village of Johnson, and attested by the village clerk on March 2nd, 2023, at 8 o'clock in the morning. So Article 1 is the Australian ballot, and those polls are now closed. We'll move on to Article 2. Will the village vote to adopt the annual report of the auditors for the year ending December 31st at 2022 as printed? So it's
Second.
a motion and a second. I'm going to recognize the chair.
So this year's annual report is dedicated to a person who's sitting in the back row there, Nate Brigham. And the reason we dedicate it to him is he has given us a long time of service, like 25 years or more. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. Basically, Gordy helped me write it, and Nate's wife. You can read it, it's right here. But I just want to say, one of the things that stood out was that Nate has always said that the village comes first. So let's give a round of applause to Nate. Thank you, Nate.
That's, yes.
That's my speech.
Nate, do you have any words?
It's a main big word.
Is there any discussion on the article? Currently, the motion and second. No. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 3, will the village authorize its trustees to appoint a water and light commissioner, if not to elect a water and light commissioner for 1 year?
Make a motion for the trustees to go appoint.
Motion, we have a second. Motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 4, will the village authorize its trustees to set the rates of compensation of its officers and employees?
Second.
The motion and second. Any discussion? No. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 5, will the village vote the budget to meet the expenses and liabilities of the village?
Second.
I
Thank you both for coming on.
I think I need a motion with a dollar amount. The board member want to make the motion.
You want to do this one?
$438,683.
So motion.
So you're moving the budget of four. What was it?
$438,683.
Okay, there's a motion, with a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Article 6, shall the voters authorize Village of Johnson to appoint the village clerk in accordance with 17 VSA 265, 2651E.
So moved.
Motion, we have a second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Get the motion to. None, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 7, shall the voters authorize the village of Johnson to appoint the village treasurer in accordance with 17 VSA 2651 F.
Second.
Motion and second. We're going to discuss. Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. Article 8, no such other business as may properly be brought before this meeting. Is there any motions that something they'd like to bring up?
Everybody, Scott Meyer, resident.
village. So, quite a few years back, we brought up the question of the merger. And we studied and talked about, and years are still slipping by. And on the town side, I haven't heard much traction. On the village side, I haven't heard much traction. What's going on with that study? Where are we at?
The board member would like to address that.
Well, from my opinion, there's, it would be, the initial expense would be pretty high and there's a lot of unknowns. Is the problem I personally have with it, but that's just my personal opinion.
I think it's a lot of it, Scott, was that during the first beginning part of it, we didn't have a manager. So that put the village at a big disadvantage to talk through and come up with actual factual numbers and stuff. We started doing it, BJ and Steve were on the merger committee. We received some numbers and I think our next joint meeting is beginning, middle of next month.
Looks like it's gonna be the 3rd of May.
And that's up for topic of discussion again. It's a deep subject, you know that. It's gonna take time and we were already a year and a half behind with not having a manager, so that's definitely, you know, prior to that, I can't speak much for, but I think we're still working on moving forward. I believe the board agrees with that.
Yes. So in May, the board is going, both boards are going to meet and discuss what the next steps are.
Village garage. Well, again, this has been beaten around a little bit. And the last bit of trustee reading that I did, I don't do a lot of it, but I dove into it just for fun. And it looked like there's more engineering studies, more of this, more of that. Actually heard an energy audit on the building that needs to be demoed. And I'm just sort of wondering, how many more studies do we need? Why do we need an energy audit for a thing that's going to be basically, from everything I've heard, brought back to its friend for a rebuild?
Want me to take it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Eric,
Oh, you have to, that's
there's
right.
no objection, and I'm gonna recognize Eric as well as the department heads, but if there's no objections from any of the voters, these are not voting members of the community. Go ahead, Eric.
Okay. So the short answer is grant money. Okay. The energy audit, well, the current one we're doing is 2 reasons. One, it can help us get towards the buildings and general services energy grant. 2, it's helping out working with BTC students in our capstone project, which was always a good thing to help out college students, but especially when the president of Vermont State University has a vision of community learning, and the community of Johnson is working hand in hand with his students. So we kind of a 2-pronged approach there. We're making the president of making the guy who decides which campus stays and goes happy with us. That audit doesn't cost us anything. And the BGS grant is up to $500,000 without match, and can be used towards building envelope. You know, when we're, like I said, we're going down to concrete and beams and putting on the building envelope, new roof, all that stuff. This money can be used towards the rebuild. So,
One more. Why?
Okay, that's your quote.
Scott, that's all using the ARPA. Can I add one more thing to that? The first study that you're probably referring to was while back was whether or not the lot, the slab and the area was feasible. So that was engineering just to make sure that it wasn't the slab as an issue causing the moisture, whether the bank was the issue causing the moisture. So that was the first expense we had on it, which we needed to find out whether it would be part of the Act 250 permit amendment and stuff like that. So,
And I can just kind of go further. We've been after this one. This garage is on full front burner. I worked with the planning commission. We put in for both Senator Sanders and Senator Welch's congressional directed spending, and we're getting feedback. So it seems like we're at least on short lists. So that's up to $750,000. And they're working, I'm working with them on, if those don't come through other people's money. Because we don't have one.
Awesome. So my third and probably final. And this one might be a ouch to everybody, but legal fees. So what I heard is each trustee reaching out for legal advice. And then there was some loose discussion in one of the minutes saying we don't have to go through the chair. We can work independently. $170 an hour for legal fees.
Oh, so it just went up to 225 from
225. Okay, so it's even more than that for me because 30 cent counts in our household. I was a trustee, and when I was a trustee, Gordon was our chair. The way we worked it is I would never reach out to anybody on any issue without talking to Gordon. And especially when we retract the financial costs to the village. And I'm just wondering what your point of view is on that. Are we working through the chair? Are we working through our village manager? Is it a free for all and all mayors independently? I'm sort of lost. I've been on other boards, we've always worked through the chair. Always. Like I said, I'm a trustee, we've always worked through the chair before you guided us through that process. It wasn't, like, no, you can't talk to anybody. We kept there. And I'm wondering, did that all apart? Because when I read the minutes, and I have, to be honest, haven't been at meetings, but dabbing into the village business once in a while. It seems sort of like a free for all. And if you can correct, I'm super happy. But if it is a free for all, what I'm asking is a ratepayer or a village taxes that I pay every year, that this would stop. You go through the chair, you have some kind of process where before somebody singly reaches out to an employee, or lawyer, or whatever, that they check in on the chair and they keep you informed of what's going on. Scott, is there anybody want to address?
I'll answer part of that to the best of my ability. My understanding is that no unreasonable request from one of the trustees should be turned down by the chair. And I believe that the legal expenses we've had have all been necessary and reasonable. And I never received any blueprint when I started this job on how you had to do it. You mentioned to me that you were going to send me something.
Yes. And that's basically for nonprofit. That's what I'm.
Okay.
We're talking about this.
I'd just like to say it's part of public record. In all my emails, I verified with the chair before I contacted him. Am I correct?
Yeah.
These are things that are happening behind the scenes that when we read the minutes at home, that's not.
Or anyone else?
On a lighter note, I just wanted to draw everyone in the room's attention to the lovely arboretum that is manifesting over behind Eric's house, and that it's been a labor of love for most of the people who've been working on it. I'm not a member of the tree board, but I give them kudos for all the work and feel like it's a project that will benefit the future of Johnson. And asking the trustees to think about ways that they can support possibly through labor. There's a real need for getting water to the trees, and it's been hauling buckets, which is pretty tough, and we're trying to find a system that might work. And I don't know all the details about water lines and water and all those, but I'm just asked to have some open-mindedness for supporting them in ways that we can, because the trees on the main street here are watered by them as well, and there's a lot of pruning that takes place that would be taxpayer money if that tree board did not exist and they did not put forth that urge. So, thank you.
Just as full disclosure, I live at foot of Clay Hill, if you don't know where I live, and it is not my arboretum, because town lane, town support. Yes, it is behind my house.
I'd just like to mention, Kim, that, I don't know if you're aware, but, Duncan and Eric and, Nate had a meeting down there recently. There's some issues that have to be resolved, but, it's being talked about, and, we're trying to find the most economical way to get water there.
Awesome.
I had a question about, this is actually a question I posed to the select board, but is the completion of the rail trail this year, just asking the trustees sort of what you are all doing to actively prepare for, hopefully will be an influx of people into the village, or what we're doing to draw people off the trail into the village and from the village onto the trail. So that's just sort of one visionary question I have, and which leads me to the next one, which is an infrastructure question around sidewalks. Obviously, that's really valuable infrastructure for a village. It's going to be even more valuable with folks coming off the rail trail to safely get to the village. And it's something that I feel like has been sort of historically underfunded a bit in the budget. And so I'm just wondering about funding of sidewalks, and also what the sidewalk schedule is for repairs, because Railroad Street sidewalks, you know, are starting to see wear and tear, and there's pooling of water in certain spots because of grading issues. I think that a bit of a hazard liability, and also obviously maybe. So those are my questions.
Is there anyone that can address that?
I believe we have a article on, for Monday night's meeting on expenditure of ARPA funds, right, and priorities for, and you can bring it up then. I think we'll be talking about the survey that was done, and I think sidewalks are one of the high priorities.
So the ARPA fund was a high priority sidewalks and not the building.
Well, I believe the garage is pretty much at the top of the list.
Okay, we use.
And pardon?
I said you just indicated sidewalk or high on the list.
No, yeah, they're high, but the garage is the highest.
They're, I think you're trying to say they're high on some of the popularity lists of when people take survey.
Yeah.
And we had a briefing by Rob Moore, the planning commission, you know, explain where, you know, sidewalks and some of the other things, there are different pots of money available for those, where that garage has, it's, no one has love for highway garages. So there's really limited places to find funds. So the planning commission is definitely, you know, trying to lean us towards ARPA going to the wildlife.
Another question, go back to the the study that was done for the merger. So we paid, I think we matched the town on that, right? We matched the town funds, which we all already had to do. So we're paying for it, half of it through our town taxes, and then the smaller party, the village, is paying as much as a town for study that was already done. Are you guys familiar with that previous study?
It's on the website.
Okay, but being a website, you just got.
Well,
I mean, you guys are familiar with that study. Now,
Yeah.
I'm talking about another study being done. Is this because we would like the results of the first study, or is this because, I mean, why are we as village taxpayers, also town taxpayers, moving up extra money when we're already paying for it anyway to have another study done? I mean, is this, I'm just curious as to why another study is needed, why we're paying for it twice, and
It's not we haven't voted for it.
No, it sounded like that's where you guys are headed, so I'm just curious if we're gonna be pulling up, additional funds for another study, and why, if the study was already done, because someone didn't like the results of the first study, and they want to have it done again to try to get to either side, and what's the reason for another study?
The town brought it to us saying that they wanted to do another study and asked if we would give them the okay to go and do it without any financial part to us. They did that. They came back with a fee. Our joint meeting, we're going to be discussing that. They want us to go half with it. Sorry, go ahead.
It's not a study. It's a process to start the merger plan. So in order for Eric might be able to correct me, but I believe that in order for the person to say he would be willing to do it, needed
Our
the
blessing.
village to say that we would be vested in it. I think it was just thrown out at 50%.
We didn't throw anything out at 50%.
Well,
they
no,
came back with us wanting 50%.
Correct. Evan produced a number from the person that he was talking to about the merger plan. It's not a study. It's basically they're going to come up with a thing and set it down in front of us and say, well, this is what it would be. This is how much it would cost each party. This is what it would come into. So I don't think it's the final plan.
No,
I can't quite remember. I think it was just the start of the process.
it's
Well, you were on it.
yeah, it's basically it's the start of or to start looking into the process, the split and everything. And I believe May 5th is when we have a joint meeting with them, and that's going to be brought up, and that's when the money is going to be brought up. And I believe they're going to ask us for half of that. And that's where, I mean, I personally, we won't go there until the 5th. So,
But sorry, well,
Yeah, so if my understanding things correctly, the study's been done. You guys read the study, you guys understand the study and stuff like that. The town also was with the actual process of actually merging. So you guys have decided that, and have you guys decided that the merger needs to take that step to move forward with the process? And have there actually been a consensus of the village voters to say whether or not you guys are moving forward or not?
No,
No.
it would be a referendum to the village voters that you guys would be the ones who would decide. And we don't really know. I mean, the studies have been kind of vague, and I think that's the reason the town wants a new study, is
Yeah, I
to
think it
get
was a study.
more of an accurate figure, which I'm not sure how that can be.
So with the study, which I was told it wasn't a study, this was actually the first step, or is it actually a study?
So, okay, so the merger committee, I think we're calling it different things. So when we had the merger committee, we dived into a little bit more, and we came up with like, if we merge, for example, I think it was a town, we ended up paying like 8% more. So this study or plan is to dive more into things like that and to come up with actual numbers beside 4 of us or 5 of us that aren't professionals at this, to have somebody with a professionals come in and dive into that and give us more accurate numbers so that we can make a determination on, do we move further with this or do we not?
Where do you find it? Look at the voters.
Yeah, it's more information, because the information we have that our subgroup did, which was part village and part town, we came up with some numbers. And this is more a hard line where they're taking a lot more into consideration than probably we did. To give more actual factual data. That way we can bring it to the town or the village and have you guys have the actual information in front of you to be able to vote, hey, do we move further with this or do we not move further with this? Because right now we do not have actual data. We just have our subcommittee that we had and the data that we were able to put together.
Well, previously, a few years ago, we had to do it for between the select board and the village. We had a meeting, went around on quite a while. We finally agreed to a consultant. And we agreed to pay, I believe, I think we paid half of it. Then they made a presentation to us, but we went back to the board at the next annual meeting. And had the board decide that we want to pay 50% of it. I don't think the people have anything budgeted for any money towards whatever the select board is asking you for. You better go with the board. And sugar.
That's correct. I don't think we have anything budgeted either.
I could be wrong, but I believe it's not happening in this budget.
I don't see it.
No, well, it wasn't put in there because it's not gonna be ready for that period, I believe. And I agree, we shouldn't be paying half. And I think it was more to get the ball going. I don't think it was a commitment by this board to pay 50% of it.
There wasn't no commitment on our part.
I wouldn't support that.
Well, so given the information you guys given me tonight, personally, I'm against village payers paying twice for a study that affects the county and the village. The second thing I want you to consider is that while you're doing these joint meetings, then you're talking about the merger of the town and village, water, sewer, and electric are separate entities, which will be affected by this potential union or dissolving of the village. Those numbers have got to be factored in here. Because I know there are people on the select board who would love to sell electric utilities. But I can tell you right now, it's not going to do us a service to do that. When you're backing those things in, highly consider what it's going to do, specifically the electric department and the water sewer as well to have separate remove those. They're separate now as far as locating stuff like that. It's all controlled the same board. It's controlled by people in the village who are affected directly by the effects of these utilities. And if we sell our utility, it's going to do a major disservice to this village. And talk about trying to make it friendly to people coming in here, taking up businesses or homes and stuff like that. Let's get some co-op pricing. Do that as well.
I'd just like to add one more thing. If this group of people shows up to the joint meeting, there's a lot more information that you can provide than that some of the board can. And back us on stuff, you know what I mean? Because it's generally most of the time at any of them, there's nobody here. So.
You don't get to bit data. Yeah, you do. Anyone else?
I just wanted to publicly thank Lehouiller for her service. I know this is her last meeting. And I personally felt like she led with integrity, smarts, and grace. And wanted to thank you. Thanks for doing the work.
Life does not end, believe me. Anyone else?
I apologize if I'm asking him and asked earlier. I just had a question. There's an auditor's statement here that we've examined and adjusted all accounts of the village treasurer and tax collector and set forth in the Vermont statute and noted. And then when you go through the auditor line, there's no money on that account for the last 3 years, and there's only one auditor. So I'm wondering about saying we did it, and there's no money for it. Was it actually done? The auditor came in and for volunteer services, and that we it was clearly that page that it was okay. But then in the past several years we've done with maybe. So look, I think we need more auditors, and I think that people don't know that unless we get the word out. So let me know how I can help get it out, but you're welcome. They like But that's still really cool. That's a good state report. And then Anne Crockett, I see she got hired as an estimating and logistics specialist. Yeah, in the past, when we wanted to put a position, normally it comes to the voters, we talk about it, decide if we pay for it and stuff. How did this person come about, what they do?
They came about because we had the previous electrical foreman was actually more of an electrical superintendent. You know, he tried to balance between operational, leading the crews in the field and doing all the estimating, engineering, logistics stuff. And well, what I understand, it was awful hard to balance and actually been in the field. So after he left, we've been contracting him to do those portions while Nate picked up the operational leadership in the field. It didn't make sense to continue to contract outside services when we could take and find someone that could do it for us and have more time to response and do other things, benefit village. So we were very lucky to put up a part-time position. A part-time position for someone, with extreme qualifications, and we got our new testing specialist is an electrical engineer with 3 decades of distribution experience, and is overqualified for the job, and is able to pick up, should be picking up doing our GIS and asset management programs, get them all plussed up, and in addition to the other stuff.
So she's essentially a replacement for part of the growth.
Right, and
Thank you for.
and just also with the new model of the foreman being fully operational and that job being put over here, our salary line item for this budget is only 1.4% higher than it was 3 years ago. The last year we had a full department. So we had both a village manager and the foreman. This budget is only 1.4% higher. And if you factor in the two, pretty good sized cost of living increase between the two, between those 2 years, that means we have a lower salary line item. And I think we're more flexible and able to get things done better with this model.
To ask a quick question, especially about legislation coming up later this year for clean heat and pushing electricity for heating and cars and bikes and everything else. Are we ready for this as a village?
We're not ready for it today.
Okay, I realize that, but are we doing anything on the village level with this new person to say, yeah, we can only do so much?
Well, I actually do that, at the level with other managers and with the state. And the current political leaders mostly follow them deaf ears. There's a lot of problems with this that most people don't even know. This past winter, all electric utilities in Vermont were put on notice that we may be forced to do rolling blackouts if there was a cold snap in the bond being connected, because the fuel was going to them before it went to us, and we'd have to be shutting off the circuit for 4 hours at a time through that period. That's the current. We keep adding things to the load, but we're just adding risk that's going to happen.
One of our old trustees was telling us his funny story. His sister lives up in California. And they, obviously bad weather, snow, no power, and the road is littered with pests that are in charge of the there was a legislative meeting, I'll say 2 Mondays ago, that was promised, and I still can told them
my concern, one of the same reasons on this. Affordable, yeah, you know.
Anything else anybody want to bring up?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Give a motion to adjourn. I don't think to see you. I guess you're withdrawing the vote.
Pretty on 19. The miscellaneous revenue and the projection of the 50,000, we got like 17. Just wondering what didn't come in for revenue.
Line where? Okay, what's the?
Page 33, line item 19.
So, do we see that previously you have a lot, is what you're saying?
Well, yeah, the 2022 budgeted, they thought they were gonna get $50,000 revenue. And we got, $1,700. I just didn't know if anyone knows what that.
That I don't know, that predates me.
You guys have, do you know what it relates to, or just one of those
No,
things?
felt my head, no. Rosemary, that wasn't when we were,
Yeah. Money coming. That would be money, reserve fund.
Right, then we didn't replace it. So it was basically,
Use it for something in the right product.
yeah,
Okay, thank you.
it was more tough with money than anything else.
Yeah. I understand.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion on the floor to adjourn, we will second. No debate. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
One support.